There is something that I want you guys to know, and that is, before you even open your mouth to say anything, the residency programs have an idea of who you are. They've seen your CV, they've seen your personal statements, they've seen your letters of recommendation, they've seen your MSP, they've seen your whole application. They have an idea of who you are. It may be positive, it may be negative. But here's the thing, as soon as you turn on your camera to start your meeting, the first impression is your interview setup. That interview setup can confirm who you are or can contradict who the programs thought you were. Now think about it. You have two equally qualified applicants, A and B. Applicant A turns on their camera. They look polished, good lighting, good sound. They look fantastic, ready and prepared. Applicant B, not so much. They don't sound as right. The lighting is off. So my question for you is, among these two applicants, which of them feels like a real doctor? In this video, I'm going to take you through the exact steps that you need to set up your interview, from your lighting to your sound to your background. And I'm going to give you the idea and the reasoning behind it, so that come interview day, you will show up, you will look polished, and you will seal the deal. And now, before we get to it, those of you who have concerns about your interview day, what exactly are your fears? Let me know in the comment section. I'm going to reply you with fixes. Now let's get to it. Now, the first and most important thing is your internet connection. So internet connection. And preferably, you want to have a plugged in internet connection. So you want to have like Ethernet, that's what they call it, right? So an Ethernet. So it's plugged in. When I was doing my interview, I also knew about the Ethernet. I also knew about this, but I couldn't find, it's not that I couldn't find it, it's just that it was kind of a challenge for me to find a long enough wire to plug to my computer. So instead of Ethernet, for those of you who cannot use the plug-in Ethernet, what you can do is you can use Wi-Fi. However, the criteria to use a Wi-Fi is to make sure that the speed of the internet is 2510, 25 megabytes per second of download and 10 megabytes per second of upload. Why is this important? Because when you are zooming, it's basically like you are live streaming. So you need to have an internet that is able to move through frames per second. So you need to have a good bandwidth in your internet. So for those of us who are not in the US, when you are trying to select your internet, I would advise to go higher than this, maybe double it. The issue is going to be, it may be a little bit pricey, but I think it's extremely worth it, because you want to have one interview and put up your best effort on that one interview. The reason why this is important is because when you are interviewing, there's usually a vibe that you get when you're interviewing, and the internet itself, the lag in the internet connection can break those vibes. So somebody was vibing with you, the person was interested in your story, and then the internet begins to go in and out, and then they're no longer interested. You don't want that to happen. I've had this happen countlessly. It has happened to myself, it's happened to my friends. Now, lucky for me, it didn't affect me, it didn't affect my match, but I've had people that had this issue. They had good scores, they were vibing with the interviewer, and then something happened. Usually it's like a thunderstorm or rain. The weather in particular has been the most common cause of internet connection troubles. So that's something you want to be aware of. In addition to that, when you are interviewing, you want to find out what the weather forecast for that day is. You want to prepare ahead. You don't want to be caught unaware, right? So that if you know that it's going to rain, you may want to change the location of your interview. You may want to put the windows down, but just check out the weather forecast. It's important to know so you don't get tripped off. If you don't have Ethernet, you use a Wi-Fi. But Wi-Fi, you are using 2510 minimum. Now, when I say Wi-Fi, I don't mean your phone. I mean a Wi-Fi from a modem, not a Wi-Fi from your phone. You also want to have the Wi-Fi on your phone as backup. So that's going to be sitting and laying somewhere, just hoping that nothing goes wrong. But if something goes wrong with the internet, then you can bring out your phone and use your phone as a source of Wi-Fi for your computer, for your camera, right? For your interview. That is the idea. So you have internet or Wi-Fi 2510 and a backup Wi-Fi from your phone. And this is important because you don't want to be the person that goes and buys an expensive suit trying to impress us on interview day and your internet doesn't work, because your internet not working collapses the interview. Now you've set up your internet and your internet is working fine. The next step is one of the most important steps that people don't even realize. And that, my friends, is the sound. And why is this important? I said it previously in one of my previous videos. I said that in about a couple of my interviews, I couldn't see the person I was talking to. I literally was talking with them over Zoom, but the camera was off. So I was technically talking to them on the phone, right? So your audio quality is way more important than your video quality. Or every single time, hands down, you should try and make sure that your audio quality is 10 over 10. Do not leave it to chance. 100%. I've gotten a couple of questions. What kind of microphone do you recommend? What can we use? EarPod? Now, I have no affiliation with any of these products that I am going to mention, but what you should know is that whatever kind of mic you are getting, you want to prefer the one that you plug in. It's always good to know that USB, that's the one you can plug in. USB mic is way better than a lavalier. So mic like this, you can attach it to your phone. It has a port where you could attach it to your phone or your camera and just put the mic on. And also, I personally have seen people use headset during interviews. And now I'm not comfortable using headset just because my head is big. I don't want to put stuff, it makes me feel uncomfortable. But I've seen people use headphone. So you can also use headphone, especially if you are around an environment that is noisy. It's also fine. You just need to appear professional. You're in a suit, you are looking okay. Put your headphone and that's okay. Worst by far is the microphone that is built in. That's the worst audio quality you want to use. The microphone that is in your computer, in your laptop, in your phone, they have not as good audio quality as the external microphone. So I want to encourage you highly to use an external microphone. You want to make sure your voice is captured in real time. You don't want to have somebody saying, come again, I didn't hear you, what did you say? And this is very important for us because we as IMGs, we have accents, right? So you need to have a microphone that is good enough so they can hear your accent. So this is something we should not take lightly. So if you want me to drop the exact microphone that I use for my YouTube channel or for my interviews, just let me know in the comment section. I'm going to send you the link. But otherwise, you could definitely go on Amazon and just look for them. You should be fine with any kind of microphone. So now you have your internet. This is great. You have a good audio quality. You are getting close. The next most important thing is your lighting. Your lighting is what separates amateurs from the professional. You see, this video I'm currently shooting is actually in a very small space in my apartment, close to my kitchen. But I am able to transform this small apartment by simply using the tricks and tips I'm sharing in this video. You should be able to turn a small space by using all these tips and be able to shine on your interview day. So the most important thing after your internet, your audio, is your lights. Your light is super important. Now, most of us already are familiar with lights. You can buy ring lights, you can buy softbox. They are all inexpensive. So I would highly encourage you to use the light. Now, the question is, what's the difference between natural light and ring light? And quite honestly, there's so many differences. Natural light is free, of course, but the limitation is that you have to be close to the window or close to a door, and there is a risk that you may be distracted. When I was interviewing for my fellowship, I was by the window, nice lights. But then somebody came to clean the apartment. They were using mowing lawn, and that was making a whole noise. So I had to go close the window, close everything. So that was not ideal. So you could say you want to use natural light. It just depends on your setting, but it's also just as good. All you need to do is figure out how to position the camera against the light so that whatever kind of light you're using, be it natural or be it ring light, you want to put them somewhere around 45 degrees to your face. You don't want to put them right in front of you. You don't want to put them behind you. When you put the light, you also want to make sure that there is no brighter light behind. So your light in front of you must be brighter than the light behind you. Now, if you see, I have some lights at the background, but those lights are soft. They are not as bright as the light in front of me. It helps to give contrast. So that's what I want you guys to do. You want to have two lights, right? The light in front of you, that light is going to illuminate your face and make you stand out. But you also want to have a very soft light in your background. So, you see that light over there? That is intentional, actually. That is not technically light. That is my speaker. It just has that light. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a depth between myself and the camera and the distance in the background. You want to set your light and make sure that you look far away from your background. That is the idea. It gives you like a cinematic appearance when you're on camera. You want to have two lights. The soft light in front of you, it could be natural light, it could be ring light at 45 degrees. And you want to have a very gentle contrasting light in the background. It could be a reading lamp. It could be a candle lamp. It could just be something that is not super significant. It's just at the background that gives the person an idea that you are far away, creates that depth. So, and don't forget, the idea is to look polished, because when people look at you, people cannot help but judge you off your appearance. The appearance of your videos, the appearance of your zoom, the appearance of your dressing, picture quality, your lighting quality. People cannot help it. They make assumptions based on these facts. So you cannot ignore those facts. So you want to give it your best. You want to come to that meeting, you want to come to that interview with all the advantage that you can get. That is the idea. And I guess the question now is, what are the things that I should avoid in terms of lighting? What are the mistakes of lighting that I need to avoid? One of the mistakes that you need to avoid is to avoid the light that is directly above your head. That is not good. Avoid the light that is directly above your head. And just because it casts a shadow, there's a way it just comes off when people see you on the other end. So you want to have the light in front of you. So avoid the light that's directly above your head. Avoid sitting behind a window, because the light behind the window is bright. And you should be good. And now everything is coming together, right? You have your internet, you have your audio, and now you have your lights. You are beginning to look very polished. But now, this is only half of the battle. The next part that will seal the deal for you, that will change the game, that will make you stand out, is your camera. But not your camera per se, your camera and your camera presence. Now, I guess the question is, what does that mean? So, camera. Now, you see, most people think that the camera is the most important thing, but actually that's not necessarily true. Camera is an important component, but not as important as the things that we've talked about. And camera in itself is not a standalone quality. You need camera and camera presence. Now, let's talk about the camera before we go to the camera presence. The camera, basically, most of the things that you already have are fine. If you have a camera that is in your laptop camera, if you have your phone camera, and you're able to do the setup I talked about, your lighting, your sound, your internet, your background lights, you should be really good, honestly. However, if you want to add some more quality to your camera, that is also fine. You could use a webcam, an external webcam, the ones that you connect with USB. I think I have one. The one I use personally for my own interviews was not residency interviews, fellowship interviews. Was where are you? Was this one. I'm actually currently using it to record some parts of this video. So as you can see, it's still useful. It's not super high quality, but it still gets the job done. So I'll highly encourage you guys to get an external camera if you want to get something that you think you need. But for the most part, the cameras you already have are fine enough. So I'll say if you're using a new modern laptop, you really don't need an external camera. That would be also fine. Like I said, the camera in itself is not as important as the setup. And now you have an iPhone, you can use your iPhone. Then the way to do that is you will set the tripod and hook your iPhone well positioned, join the Zoom link, click on it, and then come and sit on this other end. How you can tell that you are around the area of your eyelid is to also join the Zoom meeting with another account and look on your computer and see if you are able to see yourself adequately. That's how you can do it. So what you could do is before your interview day, log into Zoom, set up your camera, hang your camera, put it at the position where you think is ideal, and then also log into your computer side by side. Log into your computer, join the Zoom on your phone, join the Zoom on your computer, and see and sit, and then look at how you look in your computer. Is that ideal? So if that's ideal, then you kind of have an idea of the setup. So on your interview day, you also will join with two accounts. One is your phone and one is just your blank computer, so that you can have an idea if you are in frame during your interviews. That is one way, but that's pretty cumbersome. You don't want to do that, right? But I will encourage you, if you have a new laptop, that is fine enough. If you don't, you can get an external webcam. I'm going to leave a link in the comment section. You could click and download. You can see a variety of microphones and cameras and lightnings that you could get. But like I said, the idea is the entirety of the setup, not just one aspect. So now you have your camera, or at least you now know that your camera is good enough, right? The next step is your camera presence. And what does that mean? Camera presence is soft skills, something that is difficult to explain, but basically it's when you come on camera, you want to appear like you are talking with them in real life. You want to appear like your emotions are captured, your surprises, your voice inflections, everything just aligns. And one of the first ways to get this right is to ensure your setup is right. You have to be at eye level with your camera, so that the person you are talking with feels that you are looking at them, you are listening to them, and you are interested in what they're saying, right? If you have your camera looking down, I'm studying now, I'm in study mode, and you'll be fast forward, you're saying I have to go somewhere. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that the person on the other side feels your engagement. They feel like you are very enthusiastic about this thing that they're talking about. So you keep your eyes on the prize, right? You also want to sit up. You try not to slouch. Like a couple of people, most of us, we slouch when we are interviewing, and there's this tendency to look like you're tired, you're professional. You may not pay attention to your body language, but it's very important. When you are seated, you want to sit up, you want to lean forward, you want to appear interested. When the people are talking, you want to nod your head. You want to, as IMGs, we are very humble people, and when people talk, when people say stuff, we are just quiet. We're listening to them. We often don't even make gesticulations. We should try and change that. So when people are talking to you, they're telling you stuff, you are nodding your head, you are smiling, and then they say something, then you nod more, and then you're like, oh yeah. You don't want to be silent for too long, but you don't want to talk too much. You want to make those expressions that have that person on the other side know that you are following, know that you are interested, know that you are engaged. Now, this is not faking it. This is you leaning into the things that you already know. So I found myself interested in stuff, but I was just quiet listening to them in a very interested way, but I didn't come off as engaged, right? But it doesn't mean I'm not interested. Now what I have learned is that if I'm interested, and surely I want to be able to show that person how I feel by my body movements, by my smile. That's what you have to do. On interview day, it's not the day to just slouch and relax and look. No. That doesn't make you a good student. That makes you someone that is not interested. They want to see you very vibrant. So that's why you want to come off. So I'm like this, I'm leaning forward and I'm smiling, and they ask me, tell me about yourself. And I'm like, well, thank you very much. My name is Endurance. I finished medical school in Nigeria. And since then, I've been working in the ED, trying to, you get what I'm trying to say. So that's the presence. What presence just means is being engaged, being interested, and having that person on the other side perceive your presence. So now we have our internet, we have our audio quality, we also have our lighting, we have our camera, and now we have camera presence. Oh my goodness, this is fantastic. We are getting there. Now we are on the journey to being a polished candidate. We will arrive our interview looking ready and ready to match. This, my friends, is the goal. Now, if after getting all these things, we are at the point where our interviewer feels that we are polished, but our interviewer are not curious yet. The next few additions is what's going to make the interviewer curious. It's going to make them interested, make them drawn to you. And one of the biggest thing in that area is the background. The background of your interview is the most interesting aspect that you can use to win your interview. You can literally change the course of your interview by having one very interesting thing in the background of your interview. And I guess my question is, how? Well, let's look at my background. Nothing fancy. When I was interviewing, I actually had that frame on the wall, and I had another glass vase in the wall. Every single time I got a question about this frame. Now, this was during my fellowship interviews. Let me show you. Now, this was during my fellowship interviews. Everybody kept asking me, Because when I saw this thing, I felt it was going to be an interesting thing. Well, I actually bought this pretty cheap. It was in Ross, it was in Walmart, I'm not sure, but it was pretty cheap, $5. But this thing literally changed the interview. And how? Anytime they saw this on the wall, they kept wondering, who is this guy? He's like an astronaut? And then who is this? It's like a flower vase? Doesn't make any sense. And they kept asking, what does this mean? What is that? I'm like, oh, it's an astronaut putting a flower vase in space. And they were like, why? And then I came up with this story about, oh, I think that I see myself as a scientist who loves art. Which is quite interesting. Don't get me wrong, it sounds very cheesy, but it worked. So that's the point, right? You want to have something that grabs the attention of the people who are interviewing you. Now, all the rest of the things in my background are not necessarily, I didn't use them in my previous interviews, but these are the things that could come up to discuss. They could talk about that, talk about this. The idea is to find two things that you want to strategically put in your background, right? Now, I've seen a couple of people use instruments, depends on your strengths. So keyboard, or like a guitar or a violin. You could put, I don't know, you just have to get very creative. Something that speaks to your story that almost nobody can duplicate. When I was, this frame was for my fellowship. When I was interviewing in residency, I actually had art pictures, African art pictures and artworks. I actually had two backgrounds that I used, just depending. I had more than one background. It was not just one background I used for all interviews. It changed. I tried this and I saw, I don't know if they were as interested in my background as they were. I tried another one and then that background was more captivating, so I kept that background, and that was two frames of African works. I think one of them was with a woman and the other one, I don't remember. I'll find the picture and put it somewhere, but I don't remember. But it was an African picture, and that picture was very telling. I kept getting questions about it every single time. So as an IMG, you have a unique perspective of the world, so I don't need to tell you what to do. You already have that thing to do. You just need to sit down and ask yourself, what are the things I could put in my background that every single person who looks at my background will ask, oh, tell me about that. That's the goal. As soon as they say, tell me about that, you have broken the ice. Now they are interested in what you have to say. You want to just catch people's curiosity. You want to have their attention and speak to them, and having that puts you at a huge advantage. You want to get an unfair advantage. That is what you want to do. Now, one of the things that you should absolutely avoid in your background, the first thing is try and avoid your family photos. I know that the first thing you're thinking about, oh, let me put my family photos, myself, my grandfather, my grandmother, my grand-auntie. No, avoid your family photos. This is an interview for a job. This is very professional. You want to try as much as possible to avoid your family photos. Now, I have a very giant family photo of myself and my wife in my living room. I could easily use that as my background, but I do not. The reason is that you want to try and separate your time for interview, which is a very professional time, from a family time. Now, if that comes up, oh, do you have kids? That's okay. You could keep your pictures here in a drawer and then bring it out and say, oh, yeah, I have kids. She's 5 years old. He's 2. That's okay. That's really good. Because I talked a lot about my wife, my family when I was interviewing. Actually, the program where I eventually matched, that was all I talked about with the APD at the time. It's like, oh, tell me about your wife, tell me about do you guys have kids, stuff. You can definitely talk about your family if you have, and that's great, but don't put your family picture in the background. It is not professional at all. That's error number 1. Number 2, try not to have the background cluttered. People who interview and the background is like, it's like shoe on the left, it's like plate on the right. Do not consider the best approach. I would advise you to not do that. And the third error is trying to blur your background. A couple of questions like this. Do I blur the background of my Zoom meeting? No, do not blur the background. Find a real background. And the reason why you want to blur the background is because of so many reasons. 1, when you blur the background, it's not perfect, so it can cut off your ear, cut off your hair. It makes you look very unreal. And then your background from time to time goes off and on. So everything just feels uneasy. You're trying to make your interview day very easy on the eye of your interviewer. You want to make it look like they were there in the office with you. You want to make that connection real. So you want to limit the amount of artificial barriers between yourself and your interviewer. So no, do not use the blurring background feature on Zoom. Absolutely not. And this is great. Now, this is fantastic. You have the internet connection. You have good audio quality. You're working on getting a good light. You have a fantastic camera presence. And now we've worked on the background of your interview. Everything is coming together. The only thing you need to do now is to understand that you need to show up in professional attire. Suits for men and suits for women. Okay? Wear suits. Now, you could argue that there are other things that, wear gown. I know about that, but I just think everybody should just show up in suits. It's way easier, right? And you're kind of professional. So everybody show up in suits. The type of suit doesn't matter as long as it's neat and it's well ironed, well pressed. I don't think it doesn't matter. People say it's better to have a black suit and a red tie. I don't know about that, but I think just show up in a suit, look decent, you should be fine. Do not show up without a tie. Want to wear suit and no tie. I don't think it's professional enough. A couple of people may think different, but I just think that if you're putting so much effort into making your interview setup this good, then you yourself should be as good. So the men should show up with tie, and women just suit. I don't think they have to wear tie. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, professional attire regardless though. Like I said, your posturing is important. Do not slouch. Sit up. Smile. Move your head from left to right. Nod, okay? And the person talking. Do not let it sound like they are speaking and you can't hear them. Because if someone is talking with you and they are with you, they can pick up cues that you are listening to them. But because it's virtual, they need you to give them cues to reassure them that you are following, that you are interested. Please don't take this lightly. And honestly, I've seen, because as a chief resident, I interviewed a couple of residents. And honestly, I've seen this. As a chief resident, I've had the privilege of interviewing a couple of residents, answering their questions during chief resident interview meetings. What I've noticed is that the IMGs are not as vocal as everyone else. So you have the AM and IMGs. IMGs are just pretty quiet. They're like, to the point that you feel like they're not interested. But I know that they're interested because I'm an IMG. Like, I also know that they don't understand how to make people know that they're interested, other than just to keep quiet and just be humble in their corner. That is not the approach. The approach is to be quiet, be humble, but you also have to have that person know. You put in the work, okay? So, and of course, after all these things, you make sure that you have backup in your head. You have to have backup, internet, backup for your camera, backup for your in the event where you have a thunderstorm or you have rain. You have to think about that, okay? Don't go into the interview having plan A. Think of plan A, plan B, and maybe plan C, depending on where you are in the part. Depending on where you are in the part of the world, you have to have that in mind. And most importantly, and of course, you need to practice interviews. You cannot go through all this process and not be prepared for your interviews. I'm opening up a waiting list for interviews. Click on the link and join. Make sure that you begin to practice interviews with people that can give you real feedback. People that can give you feedback in terms of your pronunciations. People that can give you feedback in terms of your grammar, your instructions, the way your articulations, your body language, the things to say, the things not to say, the way to come off on interview day. These things are very, very important. You need to get constructive feedback at this time, something that you can work with and improve upon. And of course, very important is mindset. Mindset is very important. Before an interview, you are nervous. Those of you who have been to interviews know you are anxious, you are nervous. You feel like, oh, what if that goes wrong? You do is tell yourself that I've worked so hard, I belong here. Take 2 minutes, look yourself in the mirror, breathe in, breathe out. You will be fine, okay? All the work that you're putting will not go to waste. You will come on top, you will celebrate, work together, and you, my friend, will do very good. Do not focus on the things that could go wrong. Plan around the things that could go wrong, and then focus on being excellent on your interview day. And like I said, join the waiting list for mock interviews, and be sure to watch my next video. In my next video, I interview a program director, and I ask him about questions that everybody is interested in knowing without political answers. Be sure to watch that video. Good luck in the match, and as usual, I'll see you in the next one.